Hello, I'm going to tell you about the mayor of Ephesus today. You might think, Mayor of Ephesus, what's that got to do with my life, or how's that going to help me? It's going to help you, believe me. Sometimes we have to have some background knowledge in order to make the application of that knowledge apply to our own situation. So this is from the message, Acts chapter 19. I'm going to be talking about Ephesus. Now, Ephesus was a very big town, very prosperous town in Turkey, Western Turkey, and it was built on the silver business, the silversmith business, because it was there that there was a temple to Diana or to the goddess Artemis. I'm making sure I say that correctly, Artemis. Now, here's the background history of it. In Acts chapter 19, verse 23, wherever Paul went, there was great disturbances, and it wasn't any different in Ephesus. There was a major disturbance erupting in Ephesus because people were following God's way. See, Paul was preaching the way. Jesus has said, I am the way, truth, and the life. It began with a wealthy man named Demetrius, who had built a large business and enriched many craftsmen by manufacturing silver shrines for the Greek goddess Artemis. Demetrius called a meeting of his employees along with the various tradespeople of Ephesus and said, You know that our prosperous livelihood is being threatened by this Paul, who is persuading crowds of people to turn away from our gods. We're making a good living by doing what we do, but everywhere Paul goes, not only here in Ephesus, but throughout Western Turkey, he convinces people there's no such thing as God made with hands. Our businesses are in danger of being discredited, and not only that, but the temple of our great goddess Artemis is being dishonoured and seen as worthless. She is the goddess of all Western Turkey and is worshipped in all the world. Now, when the people heard this is verse 28, when the people heard this, they were filled with boiling rage. They shouted over and over, Artemis, the great goddess of the Ephesians, and the entire city was thrown into chaos as everyone rushed around. When Paul attempted to go in and speak to the massive crowd, the disciples wouldn't let him. They said, Paul, whatever you do, don't step foot in that stadium. Verse 32. The frenzied crowd shouted out one thing and others shouted something else, and there was mass confusion. Now move down to verse 35. Eventually, the mayor of the town, mayor of the city of Ephesus, was able to quiet them down. He said, listen, fellow citizens, who in the world doesn't know that we are devoted to the great temple of Artemis and to her image that fell from Zeus out of heaven? Since no one can deny it, you should be quiet. Calm down. Don't do anything hasty. You brought these men before us who aren't guilty of any crime. They're neither temple robbers or blasphemers of our goddess. So, if Demetrius and the men of his trade have a case against anyone, then the courts are open. They can appear before the judge, press charges. But if you're looking for anything further to bring up, it must be argued before the court and settled there and not here. Don't you realise we're putting our city in danger of being accused of a riot by the Roman authorities? And there's no good explanation that we can give them. And after he said this, he dispersed the crowds and they were sent away. The mayor just stood up, quieting the whole thing down, because he said the Romans will find out and they'll come in with their armed forces and deal with us. So let's all calm down and let's deal with this in the courts. Now, what's the application of this? There are altars in our soul where we have gone to other things like food especially, or maybe shopping. We have comforted ourselves with idols. We think, oh, I'll go and buy myself a couple of t-shirts or a new pair of shoes, or I'm going to have a good binge in the local restaurant, a good feast. And that'll make me feel better. And we eat junk food. I don't eat junk food, but I'm just using it as an example. Now, if those sort of things are happening to you, you feel compelled to go and do something to just calm yourself down and to comfort yourself. Those are altars set up in your soul. And the devil will accuse you from those altars, and he'll send thoughts to you all the time, and you get absolutely fed up with it. Your head, this does not apply to me in this particular case. I'm explaining that some of you may have these kind of symptoms where you feel pushed in a certain direction. It is indicative of there being altars in your soul from which demons operate. And those altars need tearing down, and those demons need shutting up. And sometimes the only way you can do it is go to court. The courts of heaven are open. Now, I've not discussed this on these short videos before, but the courts of heaven are there. Jesus taught us to speak to God as Father, as friend, and as judge. And God is the judge of all the earth, and the courts are open. And in those courts, we will be accused day and night, it says in Revelation 12. The devil accuses us day and night about our past, about the way we've set up idols. That's the biggest commandment in Exodus 20, verse 1 and 2. Those idols allow us to be pushed and manipulated by demons, and we must destroy these altars. We must stop this demonic activity. Sometimes the only way we can do it is to go to court. Plead guilty, say, yes, we've done this, but the blood of Jesus is on the mercy seat, and that blood speaks for me. Now, I'll go into this in more detail in more videos later on, but the point I want to make is all you need to do is to realize if you can't cope with these attacks that you're suffering, where you're being pushed to do something which you know is not good for your walk with God, and you need it to stop, you need to go to court. The courts are open.